Hi, I'm Eduardo Miranda, the president of the Short-Term Rental Association in Portugal, also chairman of the European Holiday Home Association. I'm very glad to be here with you in this conference. Yes, basically we have one of the first national legislation of short-term rental. Since 2008, short-term rental was considered part of tourism, and when it get quite a big phenomenon in terms of tourism, in 2015 and 2018, basically they changed the law and tried to create a balance here because it was growing quite fast, and they wanted to direct short-term rental to the right path. And we got a balanced situation where the cities, they had to do a study, they have to create indicators for each neighborhood, and if they found that in some neighborhoods there was some kind of imbalance that they needed to, they could eventually create some kind of restrictions, but they have to be, the restrictions they have to be proportional, justified. In 2023, all changed. The same government that created this balance law and was sort of a model internationally, they were having pressures as everywhere in terms of housing, and decided to make an extreme pack for housing area. And one of the parts of this extreme pack was short-term rental. Basically, there was a huge number of measures that were they were created real punishment in short-term rental, trying to not only restrict, but it was more than this. Some extra tax, for example, they created prohibition, basically the zoning that was selected by the cities, decided with who, city by city with studies. They created a sort of general zoning in the coastal area without any kind of proportionality, for example. And the society saw that this was not solving the housing problem. This was basically a political discussion. And that was very dangerous. We managed to show to the society, I believe, that this was going to destroy one of the most important industries, tourism. We represented 41% of the whole night spent of tourism here. So it was not only destroying this industry, it was destroying all the industry and direct, indirect effect that this industry has. That is much more than only the lodging. So after this extreme law came, that was very punishing for short-term rental, most of the political parties, not only right, but even left, saw that that was not the solution. We had new elections, and with the new elections, there was a change in government, and the new government that we already spoke before, they assumed the responsibility of changing this law. And so we've been working for almost 1 year with them and the other political parties also to create a new balance. And this balance is basically taking the old law and improving based on the history, and not doing as they did it before, just putting everything upside down.
So they removed the legislation brought in by the last government?
Basically, what was agreed is that we needed stability. And so what we needed was a plan that brought us stability. So they revoked some of the measures that had no other way of changing, like, for example, extraordinary tax that was including, they had some constitutional problems. But in other key areas, like, for example, the power of the cities to create restrictions, or the living of short-term rental with condominiums, we managed to sit down and negotiate a balanced solution. The short-term rental is a very important part of the economy and has impacts that go much further than the lodging. And by making bad regulation, it not only costs in terms of taxes, but it will cost also in terms of society, jobs, economy, all the kind of business that could fail because they don't have the clients from the tourist clients from short-term rental. And then that was, I think, the biggest part of the motivation for them to change. And also because they saw that there was a way to manage short-term rental to grow without affecting housing. It was just a question of good regulation. We have a great number of second-hand homes. We have a huge number of empty houses in the big city. It's just a question of regulating in the areas that you have eventually a bigger pressure in terms of housing, the market to the right path, because yes, there is a lot of space for short-term rental to grow with good regulation without affecting housing. That was, I think, the biggest key point, is showing that short-term rental has much bigger impact in terms of economy than they ever thought, that doing bad regulation could cost a lot for the country, and that there were alternatives for short-term rental to grow in balance and sustainability with the rest of the society. So exactly at this moment, I will say 2 days ago, we had the law that is changing the short-term rental regulation approved. We don't have still the final text, but we know quite well what it's going to be. But of course, we have a big work to do in the next weeks here. And this law basically brings another kind of path for short-term rental regulation that I think shows that it's perfectly possible, this co-living of short-term rental with housing, with buildings. And it's a question of wanting to do balance and good regulation. And that was the difficult part, because before what we saw is that they wanted to use short-term rental as a political tool, as a political arm or instrument. And now I think the government has a new perspective and wanting to do real good regulation in terms of balanced regulation.